Welcome to part 1 of the Module 11 Skills video, Using and Writing Visual Basic for Applications code. In this video, we're going to create a new standard module, design and code a function, and use that function in a controls after update event. Before doing that though, let's look at an existing VBA procedure and get familiarized with the VB editor. Using the veterinary database from the Module 11 tutorial, let's open Form Visit, which already contains a VBA procedure. So while in Design View, click on View Code, and this will open up the Visual Basic editor. The large window in the center is what's referred to as the code window. This is where we're going to be developing the code used in our assignments this week. To the left is the project window, and it displays all of the objects that contain VBA code. Currently, Form Visit is the only object that contains any code. Down below is what's called the immediate window, and the immediate window is used to test function procedures. On your database, you don't see the immediate window. Click on View and then select Immediate Window, and you'll be able to view it at the bottom of the screen. Now I'll show you how to use the immediate window after we create a function. The VBA procedure that's showing here uses a programming structure that's referred to as a conditional structure. This is a case select structure. A case structure is based on a field value. Depending on what that field value is, a set of statements will execute based on that value. In this example, the reason field from the visit table on which this form is based is what the select case structure is based upon. The form contains a label message. Before the case statement, that label's visibility is set to true, meaning that you can see the label on the form. The code itself is placed in the form visits form on current event, and this event takes place every time you change the record on the form. When the record is changed, the value in the reason field is checked. If the value is vaccinations, the label will display book animal appointment for the next scheduled vaccine with a specific text color using its red, green, blue color setting. If the reason is grooming, the label will display a different message with a different font color. And if the reason is something other than vaccinations or grooming, the case else, the label won't show up. And this is handled by setting its visibility to false. Let's see how it works in action. So close your VB editor and go to Form View. And here we see in the reason text box it shows vaccinations. The label shows book animal appointment for the next scheduled vaccine. And it's text color of blue. If we cycle to a few more records, there we see a non-vaccination. There's an injured wing. The label does not appear. Moving further, when we get to record 11, here's a grooming reason. And here is the other message that will appear in red font. Just for fun, let's add one more select within the structure. Back in Design View, we'll select View Code. Right below Case Grooming, I'm going to hit Enter. And then if I hit backspace, it'll move it to that same indentation where case is. And for this one, I'm going to specify a case of decline. Now I know decline is one of the reasons, so it will appear in there. I'm going to change the message in the caption, and I'll change the fore color, but rather than type all this out, this is a really nice thing about coding is using copy paste. So I'll just Control C and Control V, and I'll change the message to ow, and since this is 255 here, that's 255 there, let's make 255 in the middle. Let's see what we end up with. Whenever you write code, one thing you want to get in the habit of doing is compiling it. Under the debug menu category, there is a compile option, the very first one. So run that, and the reason we do that is to look for any errors in the code itself. When you're creating the code, sometimes you'll get syntax errors and it'll spell it out right away. So if a function is looking for a specific argument and you don't include it, it'll catch it right there and then. Other times, however, you might misspell something, it won't be caught right off the bat. So that's why you compile the code so that it catches errors before you get too far involved, and then you're fixing a lot of different errors. Okay, let's see what the addition of new code did to our form. Closing the VB editor and opening the form in Form View. We're going to cycle through until we get to a decline. Oh, there it was, back here on number 13. So here, the reason was decline, the label appears as owl, and the text color is green. Select case conditionals are very useful when you want to perform different actions based on a variety of values. Here, the select was based on 3 separate values in the reason field, each having different actions based on those values. Another type of conditional we're going to look at shortly is the if-else conditional. And this type is used when working with 1 or 2 values, typically Boolean values. A true condition is met. Alright, let's move on and create a standard module and code a function procedure within it. On my Create tab, find Module, and click it, and it opens up the VB editor. The module is blank right now. Let's go ahead and name our module. Clicking the Save icon, this is going to be named VBA Veterinary Procedures. And now we have our module. It's created right there in our Objects pane. Scrolling down, here we are. Anytime you create a standard module, it will show up in the navigation pane below macros. We're going to create a function that sets a value sent to it in all lowercase. This function will be used for email fields. We're also going to create a function that sets a value sent to it in all uppercase, and this function will be used for state fields. So for our lowercase function, we'll create that. And again, it's a function, so we're going to start out by typing function. And this one will be called low all. And in parentheses, we're going to type in f value. Once you hit enter, our function is created. It's empty right now. There's nothing going on within it. However, it is set up and ready to start coding. The name of the procedure is low all, and f value is a placeholder for any value that's sent into this function. Going with best practices, we now are going to add in our error handling code to catch unexpected errors. As mentioned in the concepts video, the name error handler here is arbitrary. You can name it whatever you'd like. The name here is arbitrary. You can name it whatever you'd like. The only thing you need to make sure that you do is mention that name right here and add in a colon, and then whatever you name here, you have to rename it there with a colon. And again, this will handle any type of unexpected errors that creep up in the code. Again, you need to include error handling so a debug message box doesn't appear, which allows the user to click debug and get into this code. Never want that to happen. Now we're going to add a comment in the function itself. Comment, make sure that you tab in. You always want code to be indented. And when you want to place a comment, it starts out with the single quotation mark. Once I hit enter, I'll stay on that same indented line, and comments will always show up in green. Now we're going to create our function. And to create a function like this, the first thing we need to do is set the value of the function name itself to the function that we're going to create. We will say low all is equal to, and the function we're going to use is called lcase. An lcase will convert all letters that are sent into it in lowercase. As soon as we type in lcase, you want to stay right on that same, right next to the word, type in a opening parenthesis, and you'll see the argument that needs to be placed into that function. In this case, it's going to be a string argument, and our string argument is right here. It's f value. This is what I was talking about too on compilation errors. If you tab out of it without completing it, it'll catch errors like this right away. So we're going to type in f value right within here, and then enclose the parenthesis, and then hit enter. And with that, our function is created. Once low all is called, it sets the value of what was sent into it to lowercase using the value itself. And then it will send back the value all lowercase. The second function we're going to create will be the uppercase function. Down below end function, I'm going to hit enter twice, and I'll create my new function, which I'll call upper all. F value will be the placeholder for it. And once we click enter, the function's created. Again, the nice thing about coding, you can copy paste. So I'm going to add in the error handling into this function. Simply copy what was above, paste it into this function here, and then I'm just going to make some changes to this code itself to create the uppercase function. For the comment, I'm just going to say change all letters of a field value to uppercase. And now I'm going to change the value of the function itself. The first thing I need to change to upper all, so I'll just select low, changes to upper, and then simply change L case to U case. And that will change whatever value that's sent into entirely uppercase. All right, that's it. We've created our code. Next thing we want to do is compile it. Should get no errors. Now let's test our function using the immediate window. To test a function, you'll type in a question mark to begin with, followed by the function name, and within parentheses the value you want to test. Let's test low-al. So first, type in a question mark, function name, and within parentheses, f value for this is string, so we need to enclose it in quotations, and close the parenthesis and hit enter. And we see the results of using the function. It created all lowercase string out of what was sent into it. We can do the same for our upper all as well. I will send in the value, all lowercase, hit enter, and what's returned is been uppercased for me. The immediate window is a great way to test functions before actually putting them into use. Code should always be tested before being placed into actual production. For the last part of this video, let's use these functions by calling them in a controls after update event using form owner's class module. Let's close the VBE window and open form owner in design view. Here in form owner, we're going to call our standard procedure functions using the state and emails after update control events. We're also going to use an if conditional when calling the functions. The functions themselves expect a value to be sent to them. If there's a null value, meaning no email or state values, the function won't work. Because we have error handling, it will catch null values and send back a null value message box, and it will not allow a user to debug the code. But adding the if conditional will prevent any of this from happening. The if conditional will test to make sure the value is not null and then call the function. Starting in state, under the event tab and under after update, we'll open up the code builder. First thing we want to do is add our error handling. Now rather than typing it out, we actually have it available to us in our module. So if you double click the module, you can find a function that has error handling, and then go back to where you were at and paste it in. And from here I'm just going to remove this and start fresh. First thing I'll do is add a comment, and next I will add my if conditional that tests for the null value. So this is the entirety of the code. What's happening here is our if statement is first checking to see if there is an actual value, and it's not null. Then we're going to send the state, whatever value is in there, to our function upper all and the value itself, and that will return all capitalizations. Whenever you have an if conditional, you will always end it with end if. Our code is written, we'll compile it, and here's one of the things you have to look out for when you copy and paste certain codes. With our error handler, that was set to exit a function. This is not a function, this is a sub procedure, so we need to change function to sub. Once we've done that, we can compile it and it won't have a problem. Going back out to form design, let's place the next function, low-al, in the emails after update event. So once again, select email, click after update code builder, and we will simply select all of this code because it has correct error handling and place it into this sub procedure, and we will just change our comment. So we'll convert the email to lowercase, and here we'll just change the field from if not as null state to email. Each instance of it will change, and then we're going to change the function from upper all to low all. And once again, compile the code. No errors, so let's change over to form view. Now, we're going to change some actual values here to test these. First, on this one, I'm going to go all capital, and to see if it works, I'm going to click into the zip field, and that activated the after update event. Our email was converted to lowercase. I'll go to the next record, and I'm going to change the state field here from WY to lowercase WY, click in the zip field, and once again, this time it converted it to all uppercase. And there we go, our standard module functions are being used within the form owner class module. Standard modules, the functions with them, are a great way to reuse code. This way I wouldn't have to go and add the code into this form, and indeed I can use those functions in other forms in my database. So that'll wrap up part 1 of the skills video. In part 2, we'll combine conditional structures using an if and case structure, use a conditional along with a label, control, and some bonus features the textbook doesn't cover that I know you'll like and find useful. As always, if you need to review any of the material covered here, use the handy rewind button.